Carpenter Nature Preserve project has been really in the works since our very first year in office. The former owner, Stan Burton, reached out to me and said he had an idea for how we could turn some property that he owned, the former Wolf Run Golf Course, into more of a vibrant, tax-based, multi-family restaurants and other businesses kind of development project. Because of the location of this property being in Union Township and being in a rural district, there was not any sort of zoning or really opportunity or frankly appetite to turn this into some sort of housing commercial district. But I did want to see the property, and I met Stan out here and we started walking through the former golf course's cart path. It was remarkable to me to see how much nature had already started to reclaim her territory. It was wild and very natural. And I was just stunned. I was stunned by the large growth trees, by the waterways that ran through it. Just even standing here today, the way the wind blows through all of these trees and the sense of peace that is just, you're just overwhelmed with it. It is amazing. Obviously, I was not really on board with the vision of turning this into a commercial enterprise, but I did want to see it become a public asset. I did want this for the town of Zionsville. So after asking Stan what he needed to walk away from the property, I went home that night and started calling people asking for $1 million. And as you might think, I got a lot of chuckles. But when I told them the story of what I had experienced, I could feel other people thinking, well, I don't have $1 million, but I am interested in learning more. And at one point, I thought about Nancy Carpenter. And I thought about her because I remembered years ago working with her on the Zionsville Nature Center project. And I knew that she owned Wild Birds Unlimited, her and her husband, and that they had a passion for wildlife, for wild areas, and for habitat. Reached out to her and asked her if she'd sit down with me. And I explained what I had seen and what I thought the opportunity was here at the former Wolf Run Golf Course.
She said, "Say, have you ever heard of Wolf Run Golf Course?" And I said, "Yeah, I've heard it's fantastic, beautiful." And she said, "Would you like to go out and walk there? It's for sale." And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. I mean, our life's work has been conservation and trying to protect green space and habitat for birds and wildlife.
So when we came out and took a walk, I mean, after the walk, seeing this incredible preserve, we just kind of looked at each other and said, well, this has to become a park. We know the town of Zionsville can't just all of a sudden come up with the money. And we thought, why don't we buy it? And we'll be the interim owner.
And right then, the hoping became closer to a reality, brought us closer to where we are today.
Well, this is a special piece of land. First of all, there's 2/3 of a mile of Eagle Creek going through it. And whenever you have a major, part of our drainage system, that's huge. Keep the water clean. It provides so much habitat. The other thing is there's ponds here, there's wetlands, there's a huge variety of habitat. Not to mention there's a fabulous topography here that you don't often see in Boone County. So it's really special to be able to walk some hills and little valleys, and it's very unique. It's so important to us because it's our passion. It's what we've always loved, always done our whole lives. Jim started Wild Birds Unlimited, and I jumped in and helped grow the company. We're both biologists. I was a science teacher. I was a park naturalist. Nature is just in our DNA. And to see something like this, part of Zionsville, and enhance the park system and allow people to have a place to go, rest and restore their spirits. It was just something we could not say no to?
I would say all of our adult life, we've been trying to preserve habitats which currently were still existing before they were perhaps destroyed or altered. And we've also been involved in reestablishing habitats. We see this one as being a combination of that, especially the forested areas are pretty much in really good shape. Highlands especially as grasslands, because grassland birds really need habitat right now. And so we saw this as a unique spot in central Indiana to be preserved and become a public place.
In the spring of 2021, the Carpenters contacted me. They had heard about the Indiana Stream and Wetland Mitigation Program through the Nature Conservancy. And I immediately was excited. I saw how many stream channels were on the property. And of course, Eagle Creek proper. I had been looking at sites with KCI in the Eagle Creek watershed. So they were selected due to their knowledge and obviously stream expertise. So we came out to the site and we walked the whole site with a GPS, mapped every linear foot of channel, which was approximately 10,000 linear feet of channel on site.
So this whole landscape has been dramatically impacted, from the historic logging to agricultural production to the most recent, massive grading activities to turn it into the golf course. And that's changed the way the water flows across the landscape. In addition to that, it's either destroyed or fragmented wildlife habitat throughout. We've come in to try to assess kind of the current condition. So what plants are here, what critters might be using the area, and then develop a plan to restore some of the ecological function back to the system that it once was within the current context, and develop a very basic, at this stage, conceptual plan on what it might look like as we continue moving this process forward. Bring back in fish and aquatic insects and other life. Then we're also looking at establishing a riparian corridor, which will take out invasive species. We will diversify the current tree species that are here, or be planting that out as part of kind of that full restoration picture.
So now that this opportunity existed, it's really time to look at a comprehensive vision for the park. So with our stakeholders aligned, we entered into the master planning process. We invited the public, and obviously we wanted to play to the strengths, knowing that this would be a nature preserve. We first took a look at the ecology of the site and understood what applications we could apply to the site to enhance what was here, but also allow public engagement and enjoyment. We completed that with Runsdell Ernstberger and Associates. They oversaw the master planning process, and we invited in Ecologic to also survey the land and find the best use for the site as a nature preserve and public park. Now, with a project this large and this important, I like to say that the stars continue to align throughout it. So not only were we able to get this project shelf ready, but we found partners to help us get it rolling off that shelf and into production. Through the generosity of Governor Holcomb and the Next Level Conservation Trust program, we were the recipients of a $3 million grant, which after acquisition, those funds could be utilized for the site. And secondly, we received the Landwater Conservation Fund grant, which is a $500,000 match. One of our grant opportunities was to partner with the In-Swamp program through DNR. So the In-Swamp program utilizes credits from developers to reestablish high quality along our river and creek corridor. So with 2/3 of a mile of Eagle Creek right here in the park, this was the perfect opportunity to use several thousand of those credits and actually restore Eagle Creek to what it wants to be. Phase one really is just to get people out into the parks and begin enjoying it and creating memories and investing emotionally in it. We'll have a series of trails, we'll have an outdoor classroom, because we really see the Carpenter Nature Preserve as a regional destination for nature educations. Similar to Eagle Creek Park in Indianapolis or Conner Prairie, we want to invite the region here and show them not only what's wonderful about central Indiana's ecology, but also what's wonderful about Zionsville. Ultimately, the master planning process was an opportunity to dream big. So we did just that. So we envisioned a nature center on the site. So for the past 20 years, the Zionsville Parks Department has primarily been nature education based with our programming and outreach. So finding a permanent home for that so that we can provide that service on a grander scale was ultimately always the goal of our park system, and this seemed like the perfect fit. But we also understood, not everyone is as inspired by nature as us, but we have the opportunity to trick them into that. So we plan to have canopy walks, so that's a unique experience up in the trees, as well as amphitheaters for small performances and speaking opportunities. And the White Oaks Common project was an opportunity to look at this park, knowing that we'll attract the nature lovers, but also to attract other residents. So White Oaks Common is proposed as a multi-use space for small events like small wedding ceremonies or outdoor dining, farm-to-table restaurant, and really inviting a different user group to experience that, have a fantastic experience, and maybe they walk around on the trails afterwards. We'll begin into construction in 2024 and look to open the park late 2025 or early 2026.
This is ultimately a gift to the town of Zionsville that's ultimately owed to the generosity of Jim and Nancy Carpenter and their vision. So just incredible collaboration. Everything really had to come together to make this happen. The Parks Foundation had to get started. A number of significantly large grants came in, working with the mayor and the town council to pull this together. And it really made my vote easier, but more important than anything else was just the enthusiasm of the community coming together and saying, this is what we want for Zionsville. As the fiscal stewards of our town, we also had to make sure that the math had to add up. To make the investment of $5.5 million in a bond, and that bond purchased everything that you're seeing behind us. So it was an investment, and that's exactly what it is. It is an investment for our town, economic development, tourism. Our brand is to be a town within a park, and I think this continues to add to that brand and add a lot of value to our community.
Things like this just don't begin by themselves. It takes a vision. And I think the Carpenters certainly have had a tremendous vision for this property. I think the mayor has had a tremendous vision for what can happen here. I think the Parks Board has been on board. The Parks Department has been on board. And so many sponsors and others that have come alongside us to realize just what a gem this is and how important it is to preserve it. This is a foundation for the future of Zionsville and the future of Boone County, and preserving nature, preserving the heritage that we hold so dear. We're preserving 215 acres of beautiful nature that is not going to be touched now because we are controlling it, we own it, we're going to make sure that it stays untouched, that species of animals are going to be able to thrive here. And I think that this is really the capstone now to the Zionsville Parks Department.
Hello, I'm Governor Eric Holcomb, and I am happy to help announce the creation of the Carpenter Nature Preserve in Zionsville, Indiana. With the help of a Next Level Conservation Trust grant and partners like the Indiana Department of Natural Resources, the Land and Water Conservation Fund, and so many others who have chosen to prioritize conservation in Indiana. Because of you all, a beautiful piece of our state will be preserved for generations to come. Indeed, the spirit of conservation runs deep in our Hoosier DNA. In fact, the Hoosier president, Benjamin Harrison, recognized the beauty of nature. And in his inaugural address, he said, and I quote, "No other people have a land so magnificent and so pleasant to look upon." He could have been talking specifically about Indiana, with trails, outdoor classrooms, scenic overlooks, woodlands, wetland wildlife, and prairies. The Carpenter Nature Preserve is yet another prime example of a project aimed at making Indiana a better place to live, work, study, play, and stay. For all that and so much more, I say thank you so much.
This has become an all-in opportunity for council and the mayor's office to work together, for the community to come together and feel like they can be a part of this future fantastic piece of land that will forever be held in this natural sort of state for the enjoyment of wildlife and birds and humans. And I know that the future administration has a passion for the same sorts of parks and recreation activities as well as acquisitions. And I am so grateful that we are here today taking a look at where we're starting. And I'm really looking forward to 5 years, 10 years down the road and coming back and seeing how far we will have come.
I see a day when fourth graders are going to get on a bus everywhere in a 75-mile radius, and they're going to come here and they're going to spend a day in nature, just like they do with Conner Prairie now to spend a day in the past. They're going to come here to spend a day in nature. And it is going to be a tremendous asset, not just for Zionsville, not just for Boone County, but for the broader area of central Indiana.
Jim and I are so grateful for this opportunity to have made this dream come true for us and a dream come true for all the people in our community. And we just want to thank everyone in Zionsville who supported this, from the mayor to the town council to the Parks Department to the Parks Board. This has been a huge work in progress, and everyone's jumped in and gotten it done, and we're very grateful.